Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Overwatch Weekly. I have a few things I want to talk about today, but I'm going to focus primarily on one story today, but we'll get to that when we get to that. The first thing I want to talk about is something that actually happened a few months ago. No, not a few months ago, a few weeks ago now, that I didn't even know about, and I'm really upset about it because I wish I knew. But yesterday, the Overwatch League Twitter account tweeted out that history has been made in Contenders South America after a flawless bracket run. Win98 of Dignity has become the first woman to win a Contenders title, which is incredible and amazing. And I'm really happy for Win98. She's a 17-year-old support player for Dignity, and she is, as I said, the first woman to win a Contenders title. And Dignity dominated, and I'm very excited to see how this team does going forward. I'm excited to see what Win98 does going forward. The team has already made a spot in the playoffs, so shout out to Win98 and shout out to Dignity, because this is a really great story, and I'm very much happy to see this story get highlighted on the Overwatch League Twitter account. I think it's a good thing. The next thing I want to talk about, I'm not going to go super in depth on it. It is a great story, though. I do love what we're getting a lot of over this past week. It is Heroes Never Die, a story of courage, hope, and compassion, and it is a story about Weiwei, a nurse or a doctor fighting the coronavirus in China, in Wuhan, and it's a really great story. She's a doctor. She's a huge fan of Overwatch, the youngest doctor on the team that she was on, and it's a really great story. She's a huge fan of Overwatch, a huge fan of the Chengdu Hunters, and it is a story that I would 100% read through if you have the time. It's a great story. And it's a very uplifting story for the times that we're living in, where things are a little bleak and a little dark at times. But let's move on to the story that I want to talk about the most, and that I want to focus on the most. This is a story that comes from the competitive Overwatch subreddit, and it comes from good old Jeff Kaplan. Jeff Kaplan commented on a post, so we are going to talk about it because it's pretty interesting. So someone made a post on the competitive Overwatch subreddit titled, "This week's hero bans do not make sense. The system itself is deeply flawed." If you don't know this week's hero ban, we can, of course, bring it up right here. Now, the main focus they're talking about is the fact that Echo is banned. Echo is banned in this hero pool, which people have issues with, but the other heroes that are banned are Tracer, Orisa, and Moira. But a lot of people have issues with Echo being banned, myself included. But Dark Lord 12121 said, "It's primarily Echo being banned. She isn't even playable in Owl, so it makes zero sense to ban her. Did the devs not take into account Owl? It's basically a 3-hero ban for Owl this weekend. Not only that, the hype around playing a fun, high skill ceiling hero after just having a big tournament catered around her would be massive and would incite people to want to play her. But then she is banned for the entirety of the following week." Could we ask about how Reaper, Mei, and Torb are not even being eligible to be banned? The way they have the hero pool set up is doing much less to impact the meta at Owl than ever before. There's so many things that just don't add up. If it's based around the highest level of play in ranked specifically, with the exception that people at GM/top 500 want to play meta, but meta is basically decided by Owl at the end of the week, which doesn't allow people in ranked to actually play meta. Besides, people aren't forced to play meta like the majority of Owl teams anyways. They want to play what they like, and this just means that the heroes people want to play will get consistently banned over heroes that are a necessity at the top tier competitive scene. So that's what Dark Lord had to say, which it's an interesting point, and I do mostly agree, right? Why are we, if the way that it works, right? People at high-ranked competitive play don't play Mei. because May's not fun to play, right? And people don't play heroes that aren't fun at the high level because they just want to play heroes that are fun. And when you see May have a pretty high play rate in Owl, not super high, but a decently high play rate in Owl, and doesn't even get above 10% overall, that says a lot. Ana, I believe, had like a 10 like something percent play rate, maybe closer to like 20% play rate in Owl this past weekend, and like a 70% play rate in competitive, right? So you see this huge disparity, right? And it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But Jeff Kaplan commented on it, and it's a long comment, so I'm just going to read through it, and then I'll talk about the things that I think are the most interesting or most important when I get through it. But be warned, it is a pretty long post. So here's what Jeff Kaplan said. When we moved to a combined hero pool system, we did so based on feedback from Owl players and coaches. In our monthly Discord chat, they vocalized that the number one issue they were facing was the inability to effectively practice in competitive play because the pools differed. On the development team, we also wanted to move away from human-curated pools to something that was driven by statistics. We felt like this would provide more transparency into why the picks were made each week and, frankly, remove some of the negative emotion we saw when the picks would be announced. We evaluated using Owl stats to determine the pools, but there were some issues that put us in the direction we ultimately went. Because of logistics with how the Owl broadcast works, the Owl schedule itself, the desire to have the picks read after the final game of the weekend, and the amount of time between when the final match of the weekend happens and when the teams have requested to be able to start practicing, we made the decision to base the picks off of a more stable environment, a segment of our high-end players from the live game. If you remember our original design, we had two separate pools, one derived for Owl and one derived for the player base at large. The value that was expressed to us directly from the players who participated in our dev/pro player chat was that the pools be synced over anything else. That was the top thing we, as a development team, could do to make the game better for Owl pros. So we made the decision to unify the pools, and we chose to have those pools derived by the player base because that would be the most impactful decision for the largest segment of Overwatch players. There are also a lot of logistical reasons. In the short amount of time, we had to implement a change, a system that was evergreen rather than one that would have to be re-implemented anytime Owl goes on hiatus. Think about the times we live in right now. Made the most sense to us from a pragmatic standpoint. Largely, the system is working. Impactful heroes to both the base game and Owl are getting rotated. For example, Moira and Orisa this week. The absence of both will have an impact on Owl and the live game. There are some moments that feel off to players. Echo being banned was a possibility we were well aware of. We knew this would upset players because she was new, but we felt like sticking with the integrity of the system was important, and we knew Owl viewers would be upset because Echo wasn't being played. And just because the system doesn't routinely ban Mei each week doesn't really bother us, because that's not what it was meant to do. Mei's been rotated out already, and in terms of balance, characters like Mei are getting a lot of attention. In addition to her recent nerfs, more are coming on Wednesday. Her win rate is already down. Remember, Owl is traditionally slower at picking up balance trends because of their intense schedule, their scrimming behavior, and delayed patching. Hero pools isn't a solve to balance issues, and the hero pools is not intended to solve problems of fun heroes versus bad heroes. Those terms are so subjective that they don't really help the conversation. We could easily go back to a system where Owl pools are determined separately from the rest of the players of the game, but that's not what we were told that they wanted. All of the pros were invited to chat with us, and the pros that showed up were unambiguous in their feedback requesting that the pools were synced. For better or worse, there are good lessons in game design here. Game design is about trade-offs, not silver bullet solutions, and maybe, for once, we can be open that the Owl meta is very different from the meta we see on the ladder. I know I didn't come here with the magic answer. We're talking about possible solutions still, but I just wanted to shed light on how the situation evolved. So that's the end of Jeff's post. Obviously, it is long. I know it's a bit difficult to follow. It is linked in the description if you want to read through it yourself and kind of pull things out and pick through things yourself and read through it again and over and over and over. But let's talk about some of the big things that are there. Obviously, the one that people are going to point to the most, people are going to pick on the most, is the Mei stuff. Mei is getting more nerfs coming Wednesday, which is today. So Mei is going to be getting some changes today. We don't know exactly what they are, but Mei is getting nerfs, and she will be a weaker hero still at some point here soon. We don't necessarily know what it is yet, but it's something. Let's jump back up, though, to kind of this first paragraph, because it's very interesting to look at. Because the way that Jeff is explaining it and going at it is saying, we made this decision, we did things the way we're doing things now, because we don't have the time to base it entirely off of Overwatch League, right? If we did it entirely based off of Overwatch League, the problem we would run into is that we wouldn't actually be able to say, okay, here's what's happening and when it's happening, right? We wouldn't be able to look at the matches and say, okay, this is what's being played, and this is how we can balance and ban heroes from this week's hero pool properly, because we don't have the time, just based on the amount of time it takes between the end of the matches and the actual reveal of the hero pool and all that kind of stuff. So that's why they use data from the Overwatch ranked ladder, which to me is kind of, if you look, like, for example, look at this week's schedule, right? I don't know how long it takes them to do the hero pool, right, to actually get it prepared, but this week's schedule, you have 5 matches on Saturday, right? 3 Asian matches in the early morning, and then followed by 2 matches later on in the day, and then the same thing on Sunday. 5 matches, 3 Asian matches in the early morning, 2 matches later on. Now, maybe I'm just ignorant here, and I don't understand, but I feel like you could probably do hero pools based off of those first 8 matches. Now, then you might say, well, what if something happens in the later matches that completely changes what would happen? I don't really see that happening. Granted, right, that it's not fair to be like, okay, here's what's going on in the later matches, and if you're gonna try to do a hero pool and you don't include the stuff that happens in those last 2 matches, it's not really fair. It's not really actually accurate and reflective of what's going on. Which I guess that is true. But I don't even know if based on what Jeff said, saying we made the decision to base the picks off of a more stable environment, a segment of our high-end players from the live game, I don't even know if that means that they use the Overwatch League matches to balance, which to me is interesting, because you don't see high-level play, right? If you look at this past week, right, there were 3 damage heroes who were available to be banned. Tracer and Echo, who got banned, who are both heroes you just see a decent amount, it's not that surprising. And Ashe. And people are playing Ashe, of course, because McCree and Widowmaker weren't available. So they were playing Ashe to try to counter the Echo, most likely. So the good part about it is, Genji wasn't available, right, to be banned. And we're not really seeing a lot of Genji in the Overwatch League, so it's not that big of a deal, right? But we also didn't see Doomfist Reaper or Mei, who were very big in the Overwatch League this past week. And it makes you just go, or even Torbjorn, right? So you're getting some heroes that are being played very prominently, but it doesn't seem right now like it's the meta heroes that are getting put into the pool, right? And I think that's really where the problem lies with the system. And I agree with Jeff in some instances with this. So just saying, like, the fact that the system doesn't routinely ban Mei doesn't bother them, because that's not what it's meant to do. Of course, like, that isn't the thing, right? Everyone's like, we want Mei banned, we want Mei banned, we want Mei banned, right? right? People want Mei banned in the Overwatch League because they don't want to have to play as Mei or play against Mei, so they're like, we don't want to deal with Mei. But in something like, the competitive ladder or the ranked ladder, right? Like, no one really cares. Because, people don't really play Mei anyway, which is why Mei's never going to really get banned. But Overwatch League players, like, people need to play Mei at the high-end parts of the ladder so we don't have to keep playing Mei. Which is 100% understandable, and I understand why people are hoping that Mei gets banned. Because it's not the most fun hero to watch in the Overwatch League or play in the Overwatch League. So it is something worth looking at and worth noting. So there's always something there, but I just feel like the problem with the system, right, is that by banning Echo, right, you completely just get rid of this super exciting hero. People don't really care anymore, right? This hero's gone. People are going to be like, well, I came to play the game because Echo is the new hero. I don't really care anymore. They're going to stop playing, right? I think, right, there's probably usually a significant dip after a new hero drops, right? People come back to play the new hero, and then they kind of slowly start to dip. I have a feeling it was a pretty dramatic dip, right? People were coming to play the new hero. New hero is there. Oh, I can't play the new hero this next week? Okay, well, then I'm not going to play anymore. And then a huge dip off. Now, granted, right, they don't have to worry about that again until Overwatch 2 comes out because there's no more new heroes coming to Overwatch. But I do think it's very, very, very telling that we are in this situation where we don't have a great way for the hero pools to work while working for both competitive and the Overwatch League, because it seems like the Overwatch League gets kind of the short end of the hero pool, and look, we've only had 2 hero pools now, I think, since they've done this combined system. You had the McCree, Widowmaker, Brig, Reinhardt one, which was actually not a weird one, right? Like, that's one that felt kind of normal. Like, that was one that you'd be like, okay, well, that actually seems like a hero pool that I would expect from this, from the Overwatch League. And then we have one that just seems like it doesn't, even though Orisa, Moira are logical. It's a weird situation here because the problem is, for me, not so much that Tracer and Echo got banned. I mean, Echo getting banned is a big issue. It's the fact that Tracer, Echo, and Ashe are the only heroes able to be banned. And that, to me, kind of makes Owl seem kind of problematic. And it's a whole thing. But I don't really think there's a fix to hero pools. Honestly, I just think that the best solution is just to get rid of hero pools, or make hero pools 2 weeks, or something like that. If you want to make it balance better and you want to be able to keep, take the Overwatch League into account, that's really the best way to do it. But I was never crazy about hero pools when they first announced them. I've enjoyed watching them, but in practice, I'm not a huge fan of them. So I'd prefer if we didn't have hero pools. I just think there's too much about them that I just think is problematic and that I don't like. So that's just my opinion, though. I'd like to hear your opinion in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about this whole thing. But that's everything I have for you today. So if you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing, as it helps out the channel a bunch. But I'm going to get out of here. So thank you once again. We all have a wonderful day. Hope you are all staying safe. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.